Oh, WWE was back in Paris for Raw. They are finally done. The international tour is over. They are going to be back on American soil later this week. But for one more night, they had 30,000 people in the arena for the Paris PLE yesterday. They still had 23,000 left over here for this episode of Raw. It was a better show than last week. I know that's a low bar because the last couple of weeks have been pretty terrible. But it was definitely an improvement over last week's show. The highlight being CM Punk's interaction, not with Seth Rollins. He was looking for Seth Rollins. He wanted Seth Rollins' head on a stick after what happened at Clash in Paris. He got his wife instead. The highlight was an interaction between CM Punk and Becky Lynch here on this show. Now, eventually, Rollins did walk out. But we actually saw as little of Seth Rollins on this show as we have in a very long time. That's a good thing, because too much of Seth Rollins on a show is a bad thing. So we didn't have an overload of him on the show tonight, which was good. But they all but told you in this segment, in this back and forth between Punk and Becky Lynch, without actually saying her name. The crowd was saying her name, and Becky had no choice but to acknowledge it. But without actually saying the woman's name, they all but told you that AJ Lee is going to be coming back very soon. They didn't say exactly when, but there was a very strong hint that it could happen as soon as SmackDown this Friday, because SmackDown this Friday is in Chicago. And when CM Punk spoke to Adam Pearce and asked him, hey, where is SmackDown on Friday? And Adam Pearce reminded him it's in your backyard of Chicago. Punk said, tremendous. And he walked off. So that was a hell of a tease right there if you weren't already planning on tuning into SmackDown this Friday, because SmackDown on Friday will be the final ever Chicago appearance for John Cena. Chicago is where John Cena made his WWE debut on SmackDown back in 2002. So for him, in many ways, it's like a homecoming. He's come full circle. So that is already being advertised for Friday. Now they're advertising CM Punk is going to be making some kind of appearance on the show. And maybe, possibly, potentially, we could get an AJ Lee return on that show as well. So that really is going to be the key story coming out of tonight. But also, at the end of the show, we had a main event of Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed taking on Jey Uso and LA Knight. This was the fallout from what we had seen in the four-way match at Clash in Paris. Jey Uso and LA Knight, two losers. They did not come out of that show with the World Heavyweight Championship like they wanted to, so they were tag team partners tonight. And the Vision picks up a win, which they had to, because after the injury angle they did with Roman Reigns the night before, how are you going to beat these guys the next night? I mean, that really wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. But we had Jimmy Uso coming out to his brother's aid, teasing that we are going to be getting an Usos reunion back in the ring, and painting a picture. Really, when you look at a lot of what happened here on this show, painting a picture of what this WrestlePalooza show is going to look like in just a few weeks. And we'll talk about that in a second. But the Usos reunited. For Jimmy Uso, it's the best thing possible because Jimmy Uso has been a man without a story. He's been a man without a direction on Fridays for a while now. He's kind of the forgotten Uso. And Jey Uso, he didn't win the World Heavyweight Championship back, and even Jey Uso now is sort of at a crossroads in terms of his singles run, because where to next? Where do you even go from here? Without demoting him down the card and having him in some sort of mid-card feud. It feels like the right time to do an Usos reunion. So that's seemingly in the near future. We had AJ Styles challenging Dominik Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship. This was a match that was supposed to happen many, many, many weeks ago. Dom was supposedly injured. They couldn't do the match. Actually, I think it goes all the way back to Saudi. So we've been waiting for a while to get the rematch between these two men. And we had it on the show tonight. And not with the outcome that I personally was hoping for. It was actually, and the way they did it was the worst possible outcome that you can ask for. It was so fucking lame. And it really hit me watching the end of that match, really watching the end of the show, how heel heavy they are on Monday nights. They are very heel heavy, and that has to change very soon. Every champion on this brand is a heel. Seth Rollins is the World Heavyweight Champion. Dirty Dom is the Intercontinental Champion. The Judgment Day are the Tag Team Champions, right? I mean, you look up and down the card here, and in every instance, when you look at these champions here, they're all heels. Becky, right? Women's Intercontinental Champion. At least in a few weeks, we know we'll get a babyface, at least, as the Women's World Champion. But yeah, very heel heavy on Monday nights. We had more of the story involving Io Sky and the Kabuki Warriors and Rhea Ripley. They're playing this drama out even more this week. They had a lot of segments on the show. This story has been good for them in that they're getting a lot of real estate on these shows. Between the Kabukis and Io and Rhea, I would say they probably combined for a total of 5 segments on the show tonight. So they're giving them a lot of face time. And we finally have a resolution to the question of what is going to happen with the vacant Women's World Championship. When Naomi surrendered the title a few weeks ago, the title has been vacant ever since. Adam Pearce had a decision to make. And the decision seemed very clear. Stephanie Vaquer won a Battle Royal at Evolution last month, right? Or now it's September, July. I can't even say last month anymore. She won a Battle Royal in mid-July to become the #1 contender for the championship in Paris. Naomi got pregnant, she had to surrender the championship, and the match didn't happen. And Adam Pearce told Stephanie last week, I need another week. Give me one more week. I have a name in mind, but I got to work it all out. But in a week, I should be able to let you know the who, what, where, and when as far as the championship match goes. And that worried me because the most obvious answer to this question is you just do Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer one-on-one. If he needs an entire week to put some kind of special deal together, then who knows what he's planning here? He may be pulling somebody from Friday night. He may be coming up with some name that we're not thinking of. And after this entire week went by, the big decision by Adam Pearce was in the end the most logical decision. Common sense prevailed because it will in fact be the 2 women who were owed championship matches by Naomi going one-on-one against each other to crown a new Women's World Champion. It will be Stephanie Vaquer, and she will be wrestling Io Sky. One of these 2 women will be the next Women's World Champion, but we're going to have to wait. We're not getting the match next week. We're not getting the match the week after. We got to wait 3 weeks. And they're saving this match for WrestlePalooza on September 20th. And one of the things that you really come away with watching this show tonight is how much they are loading up that card. Because it is the first ESPN show. So independent of anything else, they are going to want to put their best foot forward. This is a big deal that they just made with ESPN. This is a big night for them. So they're going to want to load that card up regardless. They have other motives in mind, of course, as well, as far as why they would want to load this card up. So we already know that Brock Lesnar is going to make his in-ring return on that show for the first time in over 2 years. We already know this. He's going to be wrestling John Cena on that show. It's not official yet, but we know what's going to happen there. They are also really heavily leaning into the idea that AJ Lee is going to be making a return. And it's very likely that we're going to be ending up getting, I suppose it could be a singles match with the women outside. It will likely be a mixed tag team match. If anything, it would be a mixed tag team match. We could be looking at Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch against CM Punk and AJ Lee. And that in and of itself is a huge attraction. Because AJ Lee, we haven't seen her in a decade. Right? I'm pretty sure the last match that we saw her in was WrestleMania 31. And so it's been 10 years, which is kind of interesting because her husband, when he came back, it was also a similar situation where a decade had gone by. 10 years had gone by before CM Punk came back to WWE. And here we are now in a situation where it could be 10 years between the last time we saw AJ Lee in the ring and her potential comeback in the ring. That by itself is a huge attraction if they can make that match happen for the show. Now we find out that we're going to have a new champion crown guaranteed between Io and Stephanie. It looks like we're going to get an Usos reunion on that show against Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, and who knows what else they might set up for that show. Beyond it being the first ESPN show, we know why they want to load this card up as hard as they seem to be doing, because again, they want to steal all the headlines away from AEW that weekend because they are going head to head with All Out. And so what they are doing here, they are smothering them, and it's working. They're putting together a hell of a card here. So they are going all in, no pun intended, all against All Out that weekend. And so they're going to load this thing up as much as they possibly can and get people talking about their show and not the other show. And so far, even though none of these matches are necessarily official yet, or not all of them are, we can get a really good sense of what we can expect. And it's shaping up to be a very big card that night. So we will see as far as what happens on Friday night. I'll be here with you for the SmackDown post show. I think that's going to be a very interesting post show. We'll talk about everything that happened here on this show and more in your Raw on Netflix review from Paris, France. It is Monday, September 1st, 2025. I am the Solomonster, kicking off a brand new month here. Thank you for joining me. We had a fun stream yesterday for Clash in Paris. Like and subscribe. Super chats are open. And of course, if we can hit 400 likes minimum, we will do Be the Booker. Little feature we do here at the end of these streams. I'll be reading your super chats, any messages that come in. I do appreciate all of your support. Hey, Chris Hansen. There he is. Chris Hansen. Chris Hansen. R-Truth waving hello. Back when he still had the hair. Boy, what a waste that was, huh? Cut all that hair off for nothing? Yeah, he probably wanted to cut it off. He was just looking for a reason. He goes, can I please get rid of this? Can we turn this into an angle on TV? They're like, sure. And then what do they do with it? Absolutely nothing. What a waste. I mentioned Clash in Paris. If you missed it, Clash in Paris full review is up on the channel right now. Go back and check it out. My thoughts on John Cena and Logan Paul, the main event, Becky Lynch and Nikki Bella, the Roman Reigns stretcher job, which I will have an update on here. His condition. I have an update on that. And Paul Heyman as well, a little bit later on here in this review. So after highlights of what happened at Clash in Paris, the show opened here live with CM Punk once again ready to beat up one of his coworkers backstage. He was waiting for Seth Rollins. He was waiting at the one entrance that they thought there was here to this building. And Adam Pearce comes over, tries to get him to come inside, and Punk tells him there's only one way into this building, and when I see Seth, it's going to be on site. So he was not moving from that spot here for the duration of this show until Seth Rollins arrived to the building. In the arena, Jey Uso made his entrance through the crowd as the French fans sang his song. They had the same entrance set up with the Eiffel Tower entranceway, which again is very cool. I love those custom sets. Jey said that he was sorry because everybody wanted him to do the encore. You know, they stopped the music and then he goes, all right, run it back. And he jumps on the ropes and they all yeet. And he goes, we're not running it back tonight. And they booed. He said that his ribs, as we could tell, were all wrapped up. Questioned what would have happened in the World Heavyweight Championship match last night had he not helped Roman Reigns earlier in the show. He wondered what would have happened had he listened to Roman's advice and focused on himself and not helping other people. Jey said, you don't mess with his family. He said Roman was laid up in the hospital and he called out Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. So instead he got LA Knight, who made his way down to the ring. Knight said, regardless of how anyone else felt, he believed in himself and he believed that he would be the World Heavyweight Champion. Knight said that he and Jey and Punk, they all lost in that match, and Seth Rollins still holds the championship. Said that some people say Jey lives in his cousin's shadow. Knight said he doesn't know about that, but he knows Rollins lives in his wife's shadow. And he took issue with Jey breaking up. There was a pin attempt during the four-way match that he had broken up, so he took issue with that. Knight said that if Jey didn't understand, he would get him up to speed very quickly. And Jey told him, yeah, bring me up to speed. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed interrupted the festivities here. They walked out on stage. Breaker said that Reigns put Paul Heyman in the hospital, and that should concern Jey and LA Knight because that meant that there was no one to hold them back, right? The dog was off the leash tonight. Breaker told the crowd that Roman was in the hospital because he and Reed put him there. And Breaker said that he and Reed were a couple of dogs off the leash. I forgot he actually said that. I thought I came up with something witty, and I forgot that he actually said that here in this promo. He said without Heyman around, they're going to do what they want. Breaker said he and Reed were going to put Jay and Knight in the hospital right next to Roman Reigns. So Reed took the mic. He demanded that Paris acknowledge their tribal thief. No more Shula Fala. Didn't last very long. He did get a new t-shirt out of it, though. But it's kind of irrelevant now that he doesn't have the shoes. He said that Seth Rollins had a vision. That vision did not include Roman Reigns, hence why he got beaten down brutally last night. Reed then told Jay and LA Knight that they weren't a part of Rollins' vision, so they would be next. Breaker and Reed then challenged the two of them to face them in a tag team match tonight. Knight told Uso, look, we could settle our business some other time so that we could take on the Greasy Warthog and the Cross-Eyed Halfwit in the main event tonight. And that was it. That was your standard Raw opening in front of a hot crowd here in Paris, granted, but it was your standard Raw opening. It set up the main event. LA Knight making it very clear why he is so frustrated, that he is still very frustrated with Jey Uso over what happened in the four-way match. I didn't read too much into that as far as is this leading to an LA Knight heel turn or anything like that. He's still very popular. So turning him is not necessarily something that I would do, but he is in a weird position now where, you know, he just challenged for the championship and he did not win the title. He failed. And he wasn't even getting a shot at the championship on SmackDown. That's why I lobbied for so long, you know, trade this guy to Raw. And I do feel Raw is a better place for him to be. But now that the world title stuff for him is come and gone, it's like, well, where do you go next with him? You know, Dominik is the Intercontinental Champion. I can't imagine that the idea would be to feud him and LA Knight at some point and have Knight beat him. We saw that on SmackDown, you know, him and Logan Paul. He won the U.S. title. I don't think he's that guy that they have in mind, you know, to ultimately be the one to take that title from Dom. So he's in a weird situation now, too. You can't go much longer with him and the vision, right? It's going to get old. It already feels old. Where do you go next with him? You know, as a babyface, where do you go next with LA Knight? I don't know, but he is still very popular. So I don't think that they are planning any sort of turn anytime soon. Could be something that maybe a few months down the road, it might be worth looking into. He was a very good heel, you know, in NXT. He can make either one work. But just as long as he's as popular as he still is as a babyface, I probably would leave well enough alone. Now, backstage, Io Sky approached Asuka and Kairi Sane and apologized for what happened the other week. Asuka laughed and said it was okay. She said that we're a family. Asuka said that she and Kairi would take care of the Judgment Day for her. Io asked if they needed any help. And Kairi was like, oh, yeah, we would love to have your help. But then Asuka interjected and said, we don't need your help like Rhea Ripley does. So after Asuka walked away, Kairi told Io that everything would be okay. And you could hear Asuka in the background yelling for Kairi to come. And, well, to come. Rewind. She was calling for Kairi to come with her. And Kairi had this look on her face like she was all nervous, kind of like I am right now. I guess we know who wears the pants in that family. We saw this in multiple segments on this show, by the way, where Asuka would yell and Kairi would have to, like a little puppy dog, would have to go running along. This was the first of many segments that these women had here on this show. And we had Asuka, speaking of which, the very next segment, we had Asuka and Kairi Sane in the ring, taking on Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. Look at you. Look at all these degenerates in the chat. You people. You people. It's terrible. That's what she said. She said, Kairi, come. Kairi has to do what Asuka says. That's how it works. So we had the Kabukis here against the Judgment Day. Asuka and Roxanne, they got things started. Roxanne tagged in Raquel, who used her strength to lift up Asuka to avoid an octopus at one point. Kairi tagged in, and Roxanne re-entered, got the advantage for her team. The match resumed after a commercial break with the heels maintaining the advantage over Kairi Sane. She eventually got the tag back to Asuka, and she blasted Roxanne with a combination of kicks. Then she locked in an armbar submission on her. Now, are you actually comparing Kairi Sane to Veer, that's insulting. You shouldn't even mention the two of them in the same sentence together. What's the matter with you? Raquel broke up the hold with an elbow drop before she tagged herself into the match. Raquel smashed Asuka with a clothesline, followed by a rope-assisted suplex. Raquel tried for the Tejana bomb, but got taken out of the ring. So inside the ring, an Asuka lock got reversed into a pin by Roxanne. Asuka kicked out. Kairi took Raquel out of the equation with an insane elbow from the top rope all the way down to the floor. Raquel was standing, so it was a standing insane elbow bump that she took. Both women went down to the ground. We didn't see Raquel. That was it for Raquel at that point. Inside, Asuka went for it was either a kick, like a running kick, or a hip attack to Roxanne. I'm not sure which. It did not connect well. It did not look good. Then there was a lot of awkwardness because Asuka tried to get Roxanne in position for a pin. And again, I don't know if she realized that what she had just done didn't look good, so she had to pivot to a different move, and she was supposed to pin Roxanne with that move. Because actually, that was the move that Asuka's been using since she came back. I don't want to say it's a Shining Wizard, but it's like that kind of move. It's like a running hip attack. That's what I'm thinking. Now that I think back, she was supposed to finish her off with that. It looked like shit. She went to go pin her. Referee didn't even hit a 1 count before Asuka just picked her back up. They just looked like they were totally on different pages. And Asuka's like, fuck this. And she just put her in an Asuka lock, fell backwards, and Roxanne quickly tapped out. So it was a decent match with a very sloppy finish here at the end. I think that's what happened. I think Asuka probably realized, yeah, this move did not connect in the way that I was hoping that it would, so we gotta pivot to something else. And so she won with the Asuka lock. And, you know, for all the hints about Asuka and very heelish the way that she's been acting over the last few weeks, crowd in Paris didn't care. You know, they cheered for her wildly when they came out, and they cheered for her when she won the match. Now, after this, we had a video that aired, a pre-recorded announcement from the Raw General Manager, Adam Pearce, addressing the vacant Women's Championship situation. He said the match to crown a new champion will be contested between two women who were owed championship matches by Naomi, Stephanie Vaquer, being one of those women, and Io Sky. And the match will happen in 3 weeks. First ever PLE on ESPN, that being WrestlePalooza on September 20th. He didn't really need that extra week. I mean, let's be honest here. What the fuck did he need the extra week for? No, because they made the decision. They did not want this match on the Paris card. They knew probably 2 weeks what they were doing here. And they said, how can we drag this out long enough that we can do this match on September 20th? So let's just not announce anything, and then we'll delay it another week. And once we get past the Clash in Paris card, then we'll make the announcement, and then we'll wait another 3 weeks. And we'll crown a champion. So basically, by the time we get to Indianapolis and we crown a new women's world champion, we will have been without a women's world champion for over a month. Next week, they're going to be on the show. I think it's a face-to-face or a contract signing, whatever it is. We're going to have a segment with Stephanie and Io on the show next week. As far as the match itself, this is the match that should have been made. This was the right call to make. There was no other match, really, that would have made sense short of just throwing a bunch of women in a match, and that would have been very unfair to Stephanie Vaquer. That's not fair to Vaquer. So Io and Stephanie, absolutely the right move to make. Io and Stephanie is going to be a fucking great match, especially on a PLE. I mean, we've seen them on TV before, but now you put them on a major show like this. I mean, you saw the match that Io and Rhea had in the main event of Evolution. This won't be the main event, but I'm very much looking forward to this match. No matter who wins, we all win. That's how I look at it. If Io wins, and I think she will, it's a great decision. If Stephanie wins, I think it would be premature, but I wouldn't hate it. You know, I'm not going to be upset if she wins the championship. So there really is no, there's no loser here. You know, there's no bad decision really to be made. I do feel like, and I've said this before, I said this on the podcast, that it's just not the right time to put the championship on Stephanie. I actually like the idea of her challenging for the IC title, but whether they do that or not, I feel like you want to really build up to that moment when it'll be the most meaningful. And the problem is that ever since she won that Battle Royal, we have barely seen this woman on television. So yes, people like her and they love the Devil's Kiss and they like Stephanie Vaquer. We don't know a whole lot more than that about her, and she really has not had any sort of deep story on this show since she got called up from NXT. She's just been floundering over the last month as they tried to figure out, okay, what do we do here? You know, she was waiting for a title match that ended up not happening. Now you're making her wait another 3 weeks. I just feel like it would be much better to hold off until next year, whether it's WrestleMania or some other show, and really build to that being a much bigger moment. They may look at it differently and say, well, this is a big moment. This is our first ESPN show. We're loading up WrestlePalooza. It would be a huge night for her to win her first championship on that show. And true, to some extent, I could see that. It's not the move I would make. I just think there's a better story to be told with her if you hold off and wait. You put the title back on Io. Obviously, it's only going to be for a very brief period of time. Io is not going to win the championship back and hold it for 6 months. Effectively, if Io were to win the title back, she would be a transitional champion to get the belt onto Rhea, which I think is what's going to probably end up happening in Perth anyway. So it's not like she's going to have some long run, but I just think that would be the better move to make at this point. And it seems pretty obvious, though. Now, I think that Io should win, but you have Asuka, who on this show, in a segment later on, flat out told Io, I'm going to be there. We are going to be there to help you against Stephanie. Even though Asuka, or Io rather, told Asuka, I don't need your help, Asuka said, we're going to be there to help you against Stephanie. So they're already setting up the Kabuki Warriors to interfere or be ringside or be a part of this match in some way. And you have to expect that if that's the case, they're going to get involved. It's probably going to backfire. Things are going to go sideways. And if it does, that probably doesn't bode very well for Io Sky. And that's another reason why I would rather not see Stephanie win. Like, if Stephanie wins, is she going to win because of some sort of botched interference? Is she going to backdoor her way into her first women's world championship on the main roster? That sucks. I wouldn't do it that way. But they certainly set things up in a way that makes you think that Asuka is going to get involved and cost Io the match. We had Finn Balor one-on-one against Dragon Lee. We got some chain wrestling here at the start between the two. Balor hit a backbreaker. After Balor missed with a running strike in the corner, Dragon Lee sent Balor to ringside, and then he soared with a dive out over the top rope. That led to a break. They came back with Balor trapping Lee in a rest hold. Exciting. Lee fought out of it. He lit up Balor's chest with chops. Lee hit a very impressive roll into a sit-out powerbomb that got a close near fall. Lee headed up top. He hit a diving crossbody. Balor kicked out at 2. And Balor caught Lee with a shotgun dropkick. He looked like he was getting ready for the coup de grace when JD McDonough jumped up on the apron, but he quickly fell victim to a diving Dragon Lee who cleared the top rope and then caught McDonough with his legs and took him off the apron all the way down to the floor. He splatted on the floor with a Hurricane Rana. This, though, gave Balor enough time to recover from the Tree of Woe position that he was in. He reached up. He grabbed a hold of Dragon Lee's mask, pulled him down off the top rope, and then he hit the coup de grace for the win. This was fun. It was a fun match. The crowd was lively for it. They broke out into some kind of chant. I don't know what they were doing, but they were jumping up and down. It was crazy. Like, they got this wide shot of the crowd, like, just randomly in the middle of this match. I don't know if they were just doing some kind of general chant or if they were chanting for Finn Balor. I don't know, but they were very lively here during this match. And, Dragon Lee last week, he got his first singles win last Monday since November. That was against JD McDonough. So then this week he goes in there and he loses to Finn Balor. I mean, it's parody booking at its finest here. 1 week he gets a win over the Judgment Day. The next week they take it back. He coughs it right back up. 50-50 at its finest. It's a fun match, though. As Io Sky was backstage, she was having a very pleasant conversation with Nikki Bella. When they showed Nikki Bella on screen, by the way, audible boos from the crowd in the arena. They were rudely interrupted by the Kabuki Warriors. This is where I mentioned earlier, where Asuka offered to be in Io's corner for her match with Stephanie at WrestlePalooza. Nikki did not seem very enthusiastic, by the way, about Asuka interrupting her. You know, at least, I'll say this, at least there was no hint that they're going back to Nikki Bella and Becky Lynch. That was my fear coming out of Clash in Paris, especially with that kind of fluky finish, the way that Becky beat her, that they might run this back one more time, maybe do a title match on TV or something. I have no appetite to see it. I don't know that there are very many people out there who have any great desire to see those two women back in the ring together because they just did not work that well together. So we did not get any hint of that tonight, which is good. It's a good thing. Now, elsewhere backstage, Balor and McDonough, they met up with Dominik Mysterio, and Dom said that we got to do something about AJ Styles, who he was wrestling later tonight. Adam Pearce showed up. He said, I just saw what happened during your match, Finn. And he says, that's not going to happen again. So he banned Balor and McDonough from ringside for the Intercontinental title match later in the show. Balor was all smiles, and he looked at Dom and said, well, we'll be there in spirit. He's greatly enjoying himself at Dom's expense. We had the New Day and Grayson Waller, 6-man tag taking on Penta and the War Raiders. What a team this is. Woods stomped Eric before he mocked Penta's strut right to Penta's face. Eric caught Woods with a knee to the face before Ivar entered the match. Waller avoided a running hip attack in the corner. Penta got the hot tag. He went to town on Xavier Woods and Grayson Waller. Penta attempted a Penta driver. Woods, though, countered just as Eric tagged in again. Waller connected with a rolling flatliner on Eric as Kingston headed up top with the crossbody. Penta broke up the count as things started to break down here in this match. Later on in the match, there was this clumsy spot where Eric he tossed Xavier Woods. The idea was that he tosses him, and then Ivar at the same time comes off the ropes with a splash, right? I guess that was what it was designed to be. It just didn't come off well. It's almost like he landed more kind of on his head than his body. It didn't look good. Penta followed up with a Mexican destroyer, and he pinned Xavier Woods to put it away for the baby faces here in this match. It was a solid match. I mean, outside of that awkward spot with the Vikings, I'm not sure that this win or this match really means anything at all in the big picture. I'm glad Penta got the win. That was nice. I'd rather he win than lose, but I have the same feeling now that I've had for the last month and a half, which is that they don't seem to have any real solid direction for this man. And that is something that has to change, very soon. And the New Day, they're trying with their, heel gimmick. They come out, they try to get heat, they cut promos on the crowd, sometimes during the commercial breaks. That's where most of their work happens these days. They have been so marginalized on this show that the majority of their work doesn't even happen on the actual show. They had a segment that they shot in a funeral. Well, it wasn't a funeral home probably, but it was a room. It was meant to be a funeral for the tag team division. Michael Cole promoted this throughout the show. The New Day, we're going to show you later on, the New Day, they threw a funeral for the tag team division here on Raw. Now, maybe it was different on your feed depending on where you live, but on my feed, this fucking segment aired during the commercial because they had the little countdown clock in the corner counting down to when they came back from break. So this was so important that they aired this during the commercial break. And it was just Woods and Kingston in what was supposed to be a funeral home, a funeral setting, cutting a promo on the tag team division. That's really all it was. It wasn't really funny. It wasn't really anything that's worth going gaga over here. I mean, they could have had some fun with it, but it was pretty basic stuff. But the fact that they could not even take the time to air it during the actual show, I think speaks volumes about what they think of the New Day right now as far as carving out time for them on these shows. I mean, we know where things were when they first went heel in terms of the heat they were getting, and that disappeared very quickly. But they really haven't done much to try to kind of get them back to a place where they feel like an important part of the show. They just don't. Now, if the Usos are going to be reunited, I suppose they could always go back to the Usos in the New Day. It's been years since we've seen them feud. It would be a little bit different now because the roles are completely flipped, where the Usos are the baby faces and the New Day are the heels. Before, the New Day were the baby faces and the Usos were the heels, I think, for most of it. So maybe they revisit that, right? I mean, it would be a step down for Jey Uso, but it would be something at least for the New Day to do on these shows. But, you know, they're throwing a funeral for the tag team division. They're basically throwing a funeral for themselves. They may as well be. Because it feels like their careers have really hit the skids here during this heel turn on this show. That funeral was for themselves as much as it was the rest of the tag team division. Now, backstage, Kathy Kelly spoke to Rhea Ripley. And she asked Rhea Ripley if her friendship with Io Sky complicates her championship ambitions. Ripley said that she would do whatever it takes to get the title back and get back in the title hunt before the Kabuki Warriors interrupted her. Asuka accused Rhea of not being a true friend to Io. Ripley warned Asuka not to push her. Even though she was trying to play nice for Io's sake, don't push me. Asuka got right up in her face, said that she can push whoever she wanted. She said, no one is ready for Asuka. Not even Rhea. Asuka left. Kairi stayed behind, and she looked very sheepishly at Rhea until you could hear Asuka in the background call for her to come. Kairi, come! And Kairi left. Kairi's facial expressions, I will say, her acting a couple weeks ago was very over the top, but her facial expressions in this are very good. You really do feel a lot of sympathy for her. Elsewhere, Roxanne Perez complained to Adam Pearce that she should have been added to the Women's World Championship match because she was the one who beat Io Sky, which is true. That week that Io was supposed to wrestle Naomi, she wrestled Roxanne instead, and Roxanne pinned her. Lyra Valkyria walked in. She started arguing with Roxanne and Raquel. And Pearce told Lyra, after the Judgment Day finally left, he was supposed to meet with Lyra, and he informed Lyra that he had spoken with Bayley, because Lyra's been very concerned about Bayley, which I don't really understand, because it was only a few weeks ago that Lyra told Bayley, leave me alone, I want nothing to do with you. Ever since then, Lyra has been obsessed with Bayley. She is so concerned about this woman's mental state and her well-being, she can't shut up about it. So Adam Pearce said that he spoke to Bayley, and outside of some weird things that she said to him, he said that she sounded great, and she'll be back very soon. Valkyria said, look, I need to get back in the ring, and I'll happily wrestle one of them, right? Either Roxanne or Raquel. And Pearce said, I think I can make that happen. So that'll be for next week. She'll be wrestling one of the members of the Judgment Day. Why does Lyra even care about Bayley? Says Lemon Cake. I don't know. Maybe it's like one of those friendships where, you know, you just tell the other person, I don't care about you anymore. Stay away from me. Stay out of my life. And then maybe you see that that person has fallen on tough times, and it looks like Lyra now is feeling a little guilty maybe. She's still very concerned about Bayley. I don't know. But it's just funny to me how she was the one who told Bayley, you know, look, you kind of fucked me over here. I can't ever challenge Becky again for the Intercontinental title thanks to you. Leave me alone. I want nothing to do with you. And literally the only thing Lyra has done since then, she hasn't wrestled. All she's ever doing is talking about Bayley to Adam Pearce. After this, Alexander says Lyra has a crush on Bayley. Which version of Bayley? I think we're going to get multiple versions of Bayley when we see her back on TV. Which version does she have a crush on? We had AJ Styles against Dominik Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship. The only time that the Intercontinental title has ever been defended in France before tonight was on French TV in 1993. It was Shawn Michaels defending the title against Bob Backlund. So here we are, big championship match. Styles entered first, and the announcers, they laid out They didn't say a word. They just let the audience do the talking. And these people, they serenaded AJ Styles with loud chants, and all he could do is just stand there and take it all in and just admire it. And he had a big smile on his face. And they just kept going and going and going. They went to a commercial break. All throughout the commercial break, these people continued to sing and chant for AJ Styles. They never let up, to the point where 4 minutes later, 3 or 4 minutes, whatever it was, when they came back from the commercial break, they were still singing and chanting for AJ Styles. And that wasn't a case where they stopped during the commercial and started back up again. It never let up for like 5 or 6 minutes straight. And it's crazy because for all the years that AJ has been doing this, he's been doing this a very long time, over 2 decades now. I would find it hard to believe that he ever performed in front of a crowd like this before, that reacted to him in this way. I know he had that crowd for his match with Cody in Lyon last year, but this was something on like another level before his match even started. So then Dom came out and he entered to booze. Dominik hit a sneak attack on Styles during the ring intros to get the early advantage. Late in the match, Styles propped up Dominik for an attempt at a Styles clash. That got countered. Dom reversed the phenomenal forearm before he threw him out of the ring with a Hurricane Rana from the apron. After a baseball slide from Dom, Styles caught him and dumped him onto the French announce desk with a powerbomb. That took us into another commercial break. Dom had a run of offense after this that included a top rope frog splash. That got him a near fall only. Styles came back and hit the Styles clash. AJ went for the pin. Dom's foot, though, was touching the rope. It's like touching the middle rope. So the referee wouldn't count. And we even got a Bloody Sunday from AJ Styles in this match. We got a Bloody Sunday brainbuster from AJ Styles. Styles, at this point, he's set up for the phenomenal forearm. And he's on the apron. He's getting ready for it. El Grande Americano shows up. El Grande Kaiser shows up outside the ring. The referee is tied up with Dom on the other side, so he doesn't know what's going on here. Americano, he loads his mask, sticks that little plate underneath his mask, and he headbutts AJ in the chest. It just was silly. Because AJ now is like knocked out. He's in the ring. He's all laid out. He's not moving. I don't know if it was supposed to be that he headbutted him, like in the face or the head. But he headbutted him in the chest, and AJ is just unconscious and unable to move. And Dom goes up top. He hits another frog splash, and he scores the pin. A very lame finish to a very good match otherwise. But man, that finish sucked. That finish absolutely sucked. And it sucked the life out of this crowd, too. Now, look, we've been seeing Dom. I'm not even saying storyline-wise it doesn't make sense. You could have something that makes total sense storyline-wise, and it still sucks. But like storyline-wise, we've been seeing Dom for weeks now having these conversations in the back with El Grande Americano, right? Finn Balor keeps coming over to him and going, what's up here? What's going on with this guy? And Dom's always telling him, oh, don't worry about it. We're talking strategy. Don't worry about it. So we know that there's some sort of a business relationship here between the two of them. It also plays into Americano potentially assisting him. Next week, the end of next week, is the next Worlds Collide show. And Dom is challenging Vikingo for the AAA Mega title. And so what role, if any, might El Grande Americano play in that match? So story-wise, it makes sense. But I just think it was so stupid not to do the title change here. If ever there was a place for it, it felt like this was it. My bigger issue with this, though, it goes beyond Dom and AJ Styles. It's this epidemic of interference finishes practically every week that Triple H loves to do. There's a time and a place for it. I use the word epidemic because that's what it feels like. It just feels like it's just a constant thing that we have to sit through on these shows, and it just really makes for bad television. When you do it all the time, it just makes for bad, lazy television. And we've been seeing a lot of it, whether it's the Judgment Day, whether it's the Vision, whether it's the women. It happens with everybody. And a lot of it is on this show. Not that it never happens on SmackDown, but it's this epidemic of just interference bullshit finishes or disqualification finishes at a rate that I feel like we haven't seen in a very long time. They need to dial it back. You can still do it. You're not going to get clean finishes in every match, but just dial it back. It's bad enough that they're so heel heavy on this show right now, but the constant interference finishes, it's just so lazy. Is this all they know? I mean, come on. With all the brains that you got back there in these meetings, I mean, I'm sure you can come up with something better than that. But just to keep falling back on that and rely on that constantly, it just makes for bad TV. Michael Cole gave us some injury updates on Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman suffered a larynx contusion, which is not so good for a guy who uses his voice. So they sort of indicated that we may not see him for a few weeks. Roman Reigns, meanwhile, they claim suffered multiple fractured ribs, and he is going to be out of action indefinitely. Yes, out of action indefinitely until his movie is done filming. And then his ribs will miraculously heal themselves, and we will see him back on TV. Backstage, Rhea Ripley was speaking with CM Punk, who was still waiting for Seth Rollins to arrive at that gate in the back. 2 hours into the show, he's been standing there the entire time staring at this gate. Rhea said that she was sorry about what happened to Punk at Clash in Paris. Punk was very cordial, said that he knew Rhea had her own issues lately and he told her to watch her back as she left. Adam Pearce showed up and told Punk that he was told Seth Rollins was already in the building. And Punk couldn't believe it. He said, "I thought this was the only way in." Pearce said, I know, but this is what I've been told. I've been told that Seth Rollins is already in the building. And Punk said that he would take care of business, and he walked off as Pearce asked, "What does that mean?" Well, he's about to find out what that means. We got a vignette for Rusev. He spoke about two friends walking into war. Only one of them walked out. Rusev said he's not a bully, he's a beacon. He said that if Sheamus extends his arm, then maybe they could be friends again. And when he said that, I'm thinking, well, I mean, maybe they're going to end up coming together as some kind of tag team, and they're going to rip ass, in the tag team division, or whatever division they have here on this show. But then he immediately followed that up by saying that Sheamus, as long as Sheamus knows that his place is beneath his feet. And at that point I said, well, that doesn't sound like much of an invitation to be good friends again or tag team partners. So I don't think that's going to happen. And then he issued a warning to the rest of the roster. This was not much of a follow-up to that big win that he got in that Donnybrook match at Clash in Paris. I think it's very important that they establish his next direction quickly and capitalize off that win over Sheamus for whatever that may be worth. So at least it means something. They didn't do that here. And I can't even sit here and tell you there's an obvious direction for him. I'd have to really sit here and think about who I might want to program him with next. Again, you have all heel champions on this show, so he's not challenging for a title anytime soon. But again, that's their job. Their job is to huddle up and come up with a game plan on how to use this man. You saw enough to give him a spot on a PLE where a lot of other people were left off that show, including Stephanie Vicaire, which pissed me off. But you gave him a PLE spot. Rusev got the win. Follow up on it. And instead, we got a vignette very similar to vignettes they've done with him before. Sometimes they don't really go anywhere. I can only hope that they have some direction in mind for him. But it's very important, though, on next week's show, they get him on the show. And not in one of these videos, but they get him on the show and really begin to establish some kind of direction for him. You put him over Sheamus. I thought Sheamus would win the match. Rusev won. Okay, great. Now what? That's what the question always is. Now what? That's over. It's in the rear view now. If you're going to do something with him, okay. Let us know what that's going to be. I hope they know. Unless they just give us a bunch of videos until they figure it out on the fly. CM Punk made his way out to the ring before the main event, and he had a message for one Seth Rollins. This show doesn't run on Seth's timeline. He said he's out there to hijack the show, and he's going to sing songs with all the fans here in Paris until they go off the air if need be. until Seth Rollins comes out here and faces him man to man. And then we heard, "Burn it down!" And I'm like, oh God. But we didn't get Mr. Burn It Down. In fact, we got his wife, the Intercontinental Champion, Becky Lynch, who walked out on stage doing all of Seth's goofy mannerisms, like she's swimming through the air. And she made her way down to the ring with a microphone in her hand. And the first thing that she got hit with when she got into the ring were loud chants of AJ Lee. Loud enough that she had to acknowledge them. She said, "Always chanting for a dope who doesn't work here," which actually was a very effective line, considering what she was about to get into here in this promo. So she had to have that one in her back pocket. She had to know that she might get hit with those chants as soon as she came to the ring, because she was prepared. Punk said he's not going to do this. I'm not going to do this, right? This has nothing to do with you unless you've got your phone on you and you can call Seth and get his rotten ass out here. And Becky told him, "You don't tell me what to do. This has everything to do with me. You think you only affect one person in my family?" Punk said that he sees where this is going. He doesn't want any part of it, and he went to go leave. And Becky stopped him and said, "No, you're going to stay and listen to what I have to say." And so he did. She's had to listen to Punk tell lies about her husband and berate the father of her child, the greatest man that she has ever known. Punk said her husband is a coward. She said her husband is everything Punk will never be. Her husband is hot. Her husband is jacked. Her husband is talented. Punk interrupted and said he's delusional. She said he doesn't interrupt me. Punk said he wishes that he would, so that he wouldn't have to listen to her anymore, and he can punch Seth's teeth down his throat. Becky said that when Punk walked out of here all those years ago, you think it only affected Seth and his matches? No. It was Punk's name that the fans were chanting during her matches to let her know that they didn't care about her or the hard work that she was putting in. She said, "Punk is not the voice of the voiceless. He's the poster child for apathy." These fans that she forgot about, these fans think she forgot about that. So why? Because they carry her to the main event of WrestleMania? She goes, "I carried myself to the main event of WrestleMania." Just like her and her husband got this business to where it is today. So the fans started telling her to shut the fuck up. She said that she will not. "This isn't about you. This is about me." She started a revolution, she said. They're in the middle. Why do I have to listen to... Why is it that every time we have one of these promo, whether it's Becky, whether it's Nikki Bella, I always have to hear this talk about how we started a revolution. We started a revolution. You know who the greatest revolutionaries are? The ones who don't have to tell you that they started a revolution. People just know it. You let other people say it. But she's out there and she's talking about how she started a revolution. They're in the middle of a revolution right now. They're both champions. And her husband, he is a visionary. He is a revolutionary. And she is the greatest female wrestler of all time. Even Sports Illustrated agrees. And they're going to need Punk to get the hell out of the way. So now we get more chance of AJ Lee, AJ Lee, AJ Lee. Becky shouted, "She doesn't work here." But Punk doesn't fit the vision, she said. So Punk said, "That sounded good, but the vision's a bit blurry, isn't it, Becky? This is a 10-year beef because they chanted my name during your matches?" Says he's the best in the world. And it's not just him saying it. It's 10,000 maniacs, 20,000 maniacs, 30,000 maniacs. And the crowd got really amped up at this point. Start chanting for him. So they chant his name if he works here, if he doesn't work here. They chanted if he's the champion. They chanted if he's not the champion. You know who else chants his name? All the towns that he was just in. And he listed off all the towns that he visited on this tour: Liverpool and Newcastle and Leeds and Cardiff, Birmingham. You know who he didn't see in all those towns? Becky and her stupid husband with their plastic belts. Uh-oh. Don't be saying plastic belts. Remember, I got that angry phone call that time on one of the streams about the plastic belt on Dynamite. One of the all-time classic moments. God, who was it? Thunder Rosa? Someone had a NWA women's title on Dynamite. This was during the pandemic shows. He was very upset. He insisted that title was plastic. How can you have a plastic belt on our show? I don't know. I don't know what Punk was talking about here, talking about plastic belts. So tell me again, he says, who runs things, and he'll tell her the only thing he runs from, that being Seth, is adversity. Because he hides behind Paul Heyman, he hides behind Braun Breaker, he hides behind Bronson Reed, and now he's hiding behind his wife. And far be it for him to reduce somebody of her stature to somebody's wife, because Becky, he admits, is a supremely talented superstar. She just has bad taste and married a bum. And he needs Seth to know that this thing between them will never be over. And so guess who moseyed out on stage at this point? Seth Rollins. And he walks out there. He was waving to Punk from the stage. He said he's been looking for him all night. And if Punk has something to say to your world champion here, why don't you come on up here and say it to my face? Punk went to go leave. Becky stepped in front of him. He tried again. She moved in front of him. Seth left at that point, and Becky slapped Punk. And it wasn't just one slap. She slapped him initially, and then she started smacking him repeatedly, and she started shoving him and poking his chest, and she's telling him to do something about it. Becky told him that he was pathetic, and Punk looked like he was ready to explode. Punk said that he's going to make Seth Rollins ever regret cashing in on him, cashing in that Money in the Bank, and Becky is going to regret ever putting her hands on him. And the fans cheered because they know what that means. They know what that means. Becky told him, get out of here. You're gross. I'm going to have to bathe in bleach. I already had to throw out my hoodie. I got your gross ball sweat on me. She tried to get the fans to sing the goodbye song to Punk. They didn't. They just booed her instead. Punk left with a very angry look on his face. And Becky told him, you'll never be champion. Now, in the back later, Punk was walking by. He ran into Adam Pearce, and he asked Adam Pearce, where is he? And Pearce told him, look, he's gone. He's gone. He left. He's not here anymore. Punk asked him, where's SmackDown on Friday? And Pearce told him, Chicago. Home sweet home. Why? And Punk smiled and said, tremendous, before walking off. And Pearce asked, what the hell does that mean? What it means is very likely the return of AJ Lee in Chicago on SmackDown this Friday, or at least it could be coming as soon as this Friday. Because after this, let me look at everything that has happened in the last 24 hours, okay? From the moment that Becky Lynch revealed herself at the end of the main event in Clash in Paris, people were talking about AJ Lee and a possible return. Tonight only threw more gasoline on the fire. Now, Fightful had a report that within WWE internally, they have come up with pitches that do involve AJ Lee, but the story doesn't indicate it's a done deal. They don't even indicate that there are actual discussions that have taken place. Only that there are people in WWE who would love very much to have her back. I don't believe that. Not that I don't believe they wouldn't want her back. I don't believe that we are seeing what we are seeing on TV without them knowing that she's coming back. It doesn't make sense. Why would you do something like this? Why would you even tease something like this? Why would you tease your fans? You know the first thing they're going to think of. Why would you tease them and not have a commitment from this woman to come back? It's inconceivable to me. Now, I do look at the segment they did earlier when Punk was waiting by the gate and he was talking to Rhea Ripley. And I look at that and I go, I wonder if that's their fallback plan. If they can't get AJ Lee, they have already now set up a friendship, right? Or an understanding between Rhea Ripley and CM Punk. And I also find it very hard to believe that we're going to have back-to-back PLEs with no Rhea Ripley match. I don't know what else she would be doing on that show, right? She'll be in Perth. But why would you leave Rhea Ripley off Paris and then off of WrestlePalooza? She's one of the most popular stars in the entire company. It is possible Rhea Ripley could be a fallback. You can get Punk and Rhea against Seth and Becky. But again, it doesn't really make any sense. This doesn't involve her. This has nothing to do with her. Rhea's entire story is wanting to challenge for the world championship. It has nothing to do with Becky. It has nothing to do with the Intercontinental title. I don't buy it. This is all about AJ Lee. And this is not happening. We are not talking about this right now unless they have some sort of commitment from her that she is going to be a part of this. I just don't believe it. It would be booking malpractice for this to be done and for them to not have had any conversations with this woman about coming back. And I will say this. If we do not get AJ Lee back as part of this story, if we do not get her back for a mixed tag match here, and she just really doesn't want to come back, she will never be back. Like, it's now or never. Like, the story is right there. It's right there. And if she doesn't come back, she just doesn't want to ever come back. That's it. I don't want to hear anybody mention this ever again after this. She's totally coming back here. And that was the whole point of the ending of the segment, where Punk said, "You're going to regret ever putting your hands on me." And him talking to Adam Pearce in the back and saying, Chicago on Friday, tremendous. Like Mr. Burns, excellent, excellent. And he walks off. So without telling you, they basically told you, get ready because AJ Lee is coming back. I mean, it can't be anybody else. Becky, I thought, was fantastic here in this segment. She was a fantastic instigator. She was doing everything she could to get under Punk's skin. Then she put her hands on him and she was smacking him around. I thought her explanation for why she hates Punk was good. I like the fact that it's not just, oh, he's my husband and I'm sticking up for my husband. She tried to add a personal element to it. It's like, oh, I had to go through all this shit all those years when you weren't around and you could have come back and you chose not to. And so people like me had to suffer through chants of CM Punk when I was putting in my blood, sweat, and tears. And people didn't give a shit. And instead they chanted for you. You know, is it a bit of a reach? Maybe, but you know what? I appreciate the fact they at least tried to add her own personal explanation to it for why she doesn't have really any care in her body at all for this man. I thought it worked. I like the fact they at least offered that as an explanation. And again, the way they seem to be loading up that WrestlePalooza card, you can tell they're going balls out here to try to stack this card as much as they possibly can. If they can get Punk and AJ Lee, AJ's first match in a decade, taking on Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, that's a huge attraction for the show. There's going to be a lot of people talking about AJ Lee and making a big deal about it. And you may see some people going, what's the big deal? It's not like AJ Lee was the greatest women's wrestler in the history of WWE. No, she wasn't. Although I thought that AJ was actually, very good, for her skill level and the matches that she had. She had some good matches. She's not remembered for having classic wrestling matches. AJ's personality, it's very much a CM Punk-like situation. CM Punk went out there and had classic wrestling matches, but CM Punk was known for shooting his mouth off on the microphone, and he got people talking. Punk could go out there with the microphone, right? He was a wizard with it. He knew how to push all the right buttons and get people talking and say things that were controversial. AJ Lee was very much like that, right? People still talk about the Divas pipe bomb. Like that's her pipe bomb, where she dropped that bomb on the entire division, including the Bellas. And that was a very memorable promo. Even when AJ was part of that whole triangle with Punk and Bryan Danielson, and then they made her the general manager for a while, she was a heavily featured on-screen performer. Forget her work in the ring. She was a big part of Monday Night Raw for a very long time. She was very good in that role. But again, over time, she got that reputation for you put a microphone in her hand, and unlike a lot of the other women in that division, she knew how to get people's attention. Something her and her husband have a lot in common when it comes to that. So AJ coming back, putting a mic in her hand, and I know it's been 10 years, so you never know what you're going to get. But putting a mic in her hand and letting her go off on Becky Lynch, that's going to get a lot of people talking, right? That could be great television. And even in the ring, I think that, again, I know it's been 10 years, but I think that she would do fine. But it's less about her in the ring, and it's just more about getting her back as a character on the show. And what might she say? When she comes to the defense and the aid of her husband and she goes toe-to-toe with someone like Becky Lynch, who is very good and very witty on the microphone. To me, that's a must-see segment. That first time that we get Becky and AJ with microphones in the ring together, that's as must-see as you can get, for this era of Monday Night Raw. That's a big deal to a lot of people. So yes, her return is a big deal. And even just talking about it has a lot of people talking, and a lot of people are going to be tuned into that SmackDown show now on Friday night, wondering if she might be there. Or if she's not there, is Punk going to mention her? Are they going to save her return for another show, but tell you that she's coming back? I almost feel like it would be better to just have her come out. I wouldn't even necessarily be like, hey, I'm bringing my wife with me to WrestlePalooza, and you have to tune into WrestlePalooza to see her for the first time. Like, I would bring her out there. I would bring her out there. I would have her in the ring going back and forth on the mic within the next couple of weeks with Becky and really build this shit up the right way. And I don't know if she would be back as a one-off and then we wouldn't see her again after that, or it's a one-off and we don't see her again until the Royal Rumble. Maybe she's in the Rumble. I don't know. It's not even confirmed that she's coming back, but I don't see how you can watch what they have done over the last 24 hours and come to any other conclusion. If this ends with anything but an AJ Lee return, it is going to be a massive disappointment for everyone watching the show who is expecting her to be back. And they will have nobody to blame for that but themselves. You cannot blame the internet. You cannot blame anybody but yourselves because they know exactly what they're doing. So any reports that say that, oh, well, they're hoping to get her back, but they're not sure, bullshit. They have to know. They have to have this shit all planned out and locked down. Friday is going to be a very interesting show. The main event was LA Knight and Jey Uso taking on Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. After one last commercial break, Breaker blocked Jey from making a tag to Knight. Uso reversed a Reed back suplex and avoided a clothesline, finally got the tag to LA Knight, who dropped Reed with his jumping neck breaker. He followed that with his top rope leaping elbow. Breaker caused the distraction, which allowed Reed to take advantage. Breaker pulled Knight to the outside. He threw him into the steel steps and then back inside into the ring. Reed continued the punishment with a senton. Breaker entered the match. As Knight tried to reach out for a tag to Jey, Breaker threw him halfway across the ring with a German suplex. Jey Uso finally got the hot tag, and the Yeet Man, he delivered a spear that cut down Braun Breaker. Jey and Knight, they joined forces to take Reed out with a double-team clothesline out to the floor. Jey hit a suicide dive to Reed, while Knight dropped Breaker with the BFT. An Uso splash followed, and it seemed to be enough, but Reed dragged him out of the ring to break the count. Reed took out Knight by throwing him into the ring post. Reed then took out, or Jey rather, looked to have the match won. A little while later with an Uso splash on Bronson Reed, but Breaker, who was still the legal man, he flattened him with a spear. And with that, he picked up the win for the heels. So Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, they get the W here on this show. At least we're putting the DQ finishes behind us. At least we got a clean finish here. This really could not have been anything other than Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed getting the win just because they just took out Roman Reigns. They stretchered him out of the building last night. You can't follow that up by having these guys come out here and lose. Now, after the match was over, the heels laid a beating on both babyfaces, including a tsunami splash to Jey Uso. Jimmy Uso's music hits, and he sprints down to the ring with a chair. The heels bail. They flee the scene. Jimmy checks up on his brother, and you can hear the camera mic. It picks up Jey telling Jimmy that he can't do this alone. He needs Jimmy's help. And now he's got his brother's help. And we're going to get the return of the Usos, very likely against Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed at WrestlePalooza. It's another big match they can do. The Usos reunited as a tag team. I have to be honest with you. I can't say that does a whole hell of a lot for me. It doesn't get me very excited because we just saw this. We just saw this at SummerSlam. Only they had Roman Reigns in there instead of Jimmy Uso. And Roman Reigns is a much bigger star than Jimmy Uso is. So they're running back, essentially, if they do this, they're running back the same thing they just did at SummerSlam. But they're just replacing one Samoan with another. That's really all they're doing here. So it doesn't excite me, but they could certainly get some mileage out of an Usos reunion. It's been a while since they've really been a tag team. This was a good show. It was helped by a very super energetic, lively crowd. Definitely better than it's been the last few weeks. Some solid in-ring action. We got some good promo work on top of the in-ring that we had. And again, the tease of AJ Lee, 10 years in the making, just like her husband. When he came back to the company, it's kind of eerie. And here we are now with her, and potentially 10 years later, making her return. But like I said, if this ends with anything else, if this ends with anything other than an AJ Lee return, then this is a massive fail. Because they've got everybody hyped up for something that they now have to deliver on. And if they're not going to deliver on that, then they never should have gotten people hyped up like this in the first place by doing what they did. Because what other conclusion are people supposed to draw based upon what they did? That SmackDown show on Friday so far has a Punk appearance, and it has John Cena's final Chicago appearance on this retirement tour of his. That's where he debuted against Kurt Angle in the Allstate Arena many years ago. He will be back there. Do not expect to see Brock Lesnar on the show. I'm sure he will be mentioned. They'll probably plug the fact that he'll be there next week because at least as of last week, he was not advertised for Chicago. I suppose they could always change and he'll make a surprise appearance, but Brock is scheduled for the September 12 and September 19 episodes of SmackDown, which lead directly into WrestlePalooza. I have heard nothing about him being scheduled for SmackDown on September 5th. But John Cena will be there, and we will hear more about when that match is going to take place. Let's take a look at the Twitter poll here, see what you guys thought of this episode of Raw from Paris. 29.3% of you have given this show a thumbs... I'm still stuck on the thumbs up. Given this show an A grade. 42% have given this show a B. 18% gave this show a C. And roughly 11% give this show a D. I would say this was a B. B minus. Somewhere in that range. I think that's fair. Let's go through your super chats here. What did you think of this show? What did you think of Clash in Paris? What do you think about the AJ Lee stuff? Drop a message. I will read them here. We're also sitting at 459 likes. So we will be doing Be the Booker a little bit later. Doesn't look like we're going to hit the bonus round, but we'll at least do the one round before we get out of here. Joseph Stewart, I want to say thank you to Joseph. Man, Joseph has been dropping a lot of love lately, and I really appreciate that. Says, buy or sell Indiana Jones or Han Solo. I wasn't really an Indiana Jones guy or a Star Wars guy, but I'll go Indiana Jones. Also, have you seen Harrison Ford in Blade Runner? No. Buy or sell Kiss from a Rose or Bat Dance? Bat Dance. Dry Chicken says CM Punk is going to have 100 bad ideas for Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. One of them being put a lot of itching powder in Seth and Becky's ring gear. Looks like they wear the same ring gear. Says, I'll admit Becky Lynch's appearance for months at times gave me Celine Dion vibes when it came to her attitude, looks, and non-wrestling outfits. He also thinks Brie Bella may be having second thoughts about returning to WWE after Nikki Bella's performance. Yeah, can you imagine Brie Bella in that match instead of Nikki? Oh my God. Also, if I was CM Punk, I would have crushed her shades, he says. Can't do that. You're not allowed to. 30 years ago on Raw, Punk would have given her a GTS. But you can't do that today. Joseph Stewart says, do you remember the Batman stunt shows at Six Flags? I do. Never had the chance to go to it. They used to have the American Gladiator stuff there as well that you could do. I always wanted to do it. I just never got there when they were actually doing like the joust and stuff, and they had the Eliminator and all that. It looked like it would have been fun. We have got Diego Vasquez. I don't know about you, but I love my J drama. I'm talking about the Kabukis and Io. He loves his J drama. Goldust Respecter. I don't ask for much, but for the love of God, can we please end Raw a different way? Just 1 week. I get Jimmy was there, but it felt like the exact same as it always does. That's because it is. It ends with a vision. It's like SmackDown, you know, with the MFTs, man. It's just... It'd be one thing if this stuff was actually interesting. Like if these groups were genuinely interesting, but they're not. Vibes and stuff. Someone ask Kyrie to blink twice if she needs help. Yeah, poor Kyrie, man. She's stuck in this abusive relationship here with Asuka. The Sheltered Kid. What do you think is more important in pro wrestling? The quality of the match or the outcome? They're both very important. I don't know that you can say one is more important than the other all the time. It kind of goes back and forth. It depends really on the situation. But I think, you know, if I had to pick one, it's the outcome. Just because the stories are so important. Stories are really the most important part. The outcomes obviously play a role in that. So it's the outcomes, but if you have 10 shitty matches with the right outcome, you know, eventually that's going to reflect poorly on your product and you're going to drive people away. So again, it cuts both ways. Also, he says, truth or dare? Good truth. Our truth, no? Bender McSimpson says, was AJ Lee a good wrestler? I don't remember her being a good worker or having any good matches. Like Nikki said, she was above average during the Divas era. She was above average. I remember her having a good match with Caitlyn once. But it's not like I have a list of the top 3 or top 5 AJ Lee matches I could recite to you. You know, like I could some other people like Mercedes or Toni Storm or Becky Lynch, or Charlotte or Rhea or Io or Asuka. Can't do that with AJ. Can't do that. You know, at that time, it was also just a very different time where the women were not generally given the time to go out there and have what you would consider to be a real classic quality match. Not like they are today. Now, today it's second nature. You give them 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. You know, it's hard to compare the two eras because the rosters were so different and the way the women were generally booked and treated was very different. It's like night and day. I know AJ and Caitlyn had a really good match together. I don't remember what show that was. Matt Fisher says meow. Thank you, Matt. MDH Sports, what's up? It will be Rhea, not AJ Lee. Well, that will be a big disappointment if it is. But that was a thought that occurred to me when I saw the segment with Punk and Rhea in the back. If they did that as sort of a fallback, if things don't work out with AJ, they've now established that Punk and Rhea are kind of operating on the same wavelength and they're friends with each other. And look, Rhea's a big enough name. It's not like people are going to be unhappy to see Rhea Ripley, but you know, you get them amped up for one person and give them another who really doesn't have anything to do with the story. That's going to be disappointing. I'm sorry. I don't care who it is in that spot. Uffman Entertainment thoughts on, of all people, Stephanie McMahon telling fans to get a VPN to watch WWE and her podcast having a link to one. She's the last person I would ever see doing something like this. You need to go back and listen to the intro, the funny little intro I did for the podcast this weekend. She clearly didn't read the copy that they put in front of her. I mean, I can't imagine that she paid much attention to what she was going to say other than it's like, okay, here, read off the teleprompter. It was very dumb. I don't know who to blame for that, but she wasn't wrong. You all should be using a VPN, but not her VPN. Don't use that. You got to use ExpressVPN with my link. I got you taken care of. See? Nightbot. There you go. Nightbot in the chat just linked you. Look at that. I could not have timed that any better. Go click that link. Get yourself some ExpressVPN. You get 4 extra months free. The Sheltered Kid. Real American Beer or 3 hours of SmackDown? And I dare you to review one of your oldest review videos. Dude, I barely have enough time to do the things I want to do right now. Real American Beer or 3 hours of SmackDown? I will bite the bullet and I will down some Real American Beers. That's what I will do. Which evidently is bleeding money and not doing very well. At least that was the impression I got from a comment that Kevin Nash made on his podcast. Not that I'm surprised, if that's true. Uffman Entertainment. Triple H during AJ's entrance. Man, Paris loves Dom. Good thing he's retaining. They love getting heat in this company. It's all about heat. Got to get heat. Heat, heat, heat. Terrible Dry Chicken. Fatigue is setting in for the long title reigns in WWE. Yeah? Clone Force 99 with 16 months of channel membership. What's up, Solo? May God bless you as always. And did you see a fan recording Jay and Jada walking together at the airport? No, because I don't pay attention to that nonsense, and neither should you. It's none of our business. 2 people walking in the airport? I mean, were they holding hands? 2 people walking in an airport doesn't really seem like a story to me. I think these fans that record this shit need to get a life. That's what I think. I think they got too much free time on their hands. The Real CSO2, I think that's why they should pair both Rusev and Sheamus up as a tag team. There's not a lot of options for either of them. Oh, there's options for Sheamus. They just don't want to explore them right now. Yeah, you know what? You could actually give this tag team division a boost. You put Rusev and Sheamus together as a team. And if you have Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, they wanted to make a run for the tag team titles. And then on top of that, you've got the New Day, you've got the War Raiders, and you've got the Judgment Day. And now, all of a sudden, you've got something cooking here, you know, in this tag team division. So I could think of worse things to be doing with him. I'm just saying, after that comment that Rusev made, it didn't strike me as if Sheamus would necessarily want to be partners with him. Nick Grasso. Did you hear Kevin Nash's L take on the Raja Jackson situation, blaming the camera and the victim? Also, what are your thoughts on the righteous potential WWE move? I don't know. I mean, I think the righteous. I think of the Wyatt Six. I don't know. There's something about them that's too similar for me. But if they're gonna get a chance on the WWE roster, I wish them luck. I don't really have anything else to say about it. And no, I didn't hear Nash's take on the Raja Jackson situation, and it sounds like I'm not going to bother listening to it. It sounds very dumb just based on what you've described to me here. By the way, it is now Monday going into Tuesday, and still nothing. Raja Jackson is still out there walking around, streaming, and doing all the things he does. And there's been no update as far as any kind of investigation. Nothing with the police, nothing. He's still walking free. Alexander says the worst case scenario, it's Cora Jade coming back. Well, that would be pretty fucking terrible. That is not what people are asking for. Tuxedo T Servo, celebrating 48 months of membership, finally made it to the Blue Skull Crew. Welcome. Welcome to the Blue Skull Crew. Good to have you. The Working Man. The Marks are going to be mad when AJ doesn't come back. Why should we expect WWE to change now? Well, they'll have every right to be mad. Dried Chicken says Larry the Dog has creative control for CM Punk. Maybe Seth Rollins will give Larry the Dog a stomp. Nick Grosso with the $4.99 says AJ Lee returns. Do you think a Team Becky, Team AJ War Games match at Survivor Series would be a good idea? No, I don't. There's no need for that. Justin G, 29 months of membership, says 19 months till that blue skull, but we will get there. You'll get there. Give it time. All in due time, my friend. All in due time. Well, we're currently sitting at 517 likes. And I thank you for getting us there. So let's go ahead and be the booker, shall we?
Ladies and gentlemen,
let's do it.
It is now time to be the booker.
Be the booker and wrap this bad boy up. Hey, Scott Woodford, he's got a blue skull. 53 months. Happy Monday. I had a raspberry soft serve beer cone. It was delicious. Back to the a raspberry soft serve beer cone. I have never heard of such a thing. That sounds amazing. All right, tag team, be the booker. We have the MXM collection here. We've got Mason Madden and we've got Mansoor currently in Ring of Honor. It's where they're spending most of their time. And they're going to be taking on the Creed. Oh, yeah, what the fuck happened to these guys? Yeah, I just got done talking about tag teams on Raw. I completely forgot about the Creed brothers. Boy, they disappeared, didn't they? Didn't Chad Gable tell them before he left, like, you guys have to hold down the fort, you and Ivy Nile, and then they fucking disappeared? What the hell happened to the Creed brothers? I have no reason to give that the bell. Holy shit, I forgot about these two. Well, you're not allowed to use them if Chad Gable's not around? Is that some kind of law? Is that some kind of rule I wasn't aware of? It's in their contract. They're not allowed to be booked. Yeah, Mark, I think they fell into that hole with Green Man. That's what I think happened. Sonya Deville, who has retired from wrestling. She apparently has no desire to wrestle anywhere but WWE, so she has simply not wrestled. Her career is over for the time being. But Sonya Deville will be wrestling Asuka. Asuka and Sonya Deville. And in our main event, we have the Hitman. We have the excellence of execution. Bret the Hitman Hart in his rightful place in the main event here in Be the Booker. Taking on one of his biggest fans, one half of FTR in Dax Harwood. I mean, Dax is touching himself in unmentionable places right now. Just the mere thought of stepping into the ring with Bret Hart. One of his biggest fans. Nobody would love to see that match more than Dax Harwood. I got to give that the bell. I think that would be a very good professional wrestling match. Can't buzz Bret. Well, there are some people in there where it might be possible, but it would be hard for me to conceive a buzzer for a Bret Hart main event. All right, thank you guys for hanging out with me here on a Monday. Thankfully, we'll be back to our normal post-show times. It'll be good to get back into a rhythm. So that'll be on, Wednesday we'll be here for the usual Dynamite post show. They are continuing their residency at the old ECW arena. So I'll be live around 10:30 on Wednesday. Of course, tomorrow I'll be over on JD's channel for Tuesday Night Titans. And then a big SmackDown coming up in Chicago on Friday. I'll be live here also around 10:30-ish for the full SmackDown recap. So you will make sure that you're here with me. Daniel Malcolm, channel member for 24 months. 2 years already. Time flies. Salute, Solo. Salute right back to you, brother. And Cameron Spencer with a $4.99. It appears that Jade could turn heel and beat Stratton should WWE have her beat Bianca for the title at WrestleMania and turn her heel during the match. No, you know what? I could envision Jade winning the title and then Bianca as a babyface beating Jade. That's what I can envision. More so than what you just described. I could see Bianca as a babyface winning the belt by beating Jade to do so. And that's not really the Bianca Belair WrestleMania match that I would book. But it's not like the story isn't there for it. We'll see. They're definitely headed for a rematch where I think one of them will turn. Jade seems to be the likely candidate of the two. I thought it would happen by now. I thought it was going to happen on that first SmackDown coming out of SummerSlam. So I still think of the two, Jade Cargill would be the one going heel in that scenario. Go back and check out episode 927 of The Sound Of. I will see you back here on this channel on Wednesday for the Dynamite post show. Be well, stay safe, and have yourselves a great rest of your Labor Day. Those of you celebrating, I'll see you back here on Wednesday night. Until then, take care, guys.